Kahneman and other economics researchers have suggested that successful traders in the stock market are often more likely, or generally more likely, to be lucky than actually good predictors of markets. Yet this point is poorly understood by most investors and even by the managers of traders. Could you compare this with the situation in science?
So who would be the traders in medicine?
Well, I think that individual researchers. So,
yeah.
So is it possible, for example, even that researchers who make discoveries that later turn out to be true, is it possible they're more lucky than good?
That's a possibility. In some fields, I think that luck is very important. So, for example, I have been involved in many consortia in human genome epidemiology, where we get dozens of teams together in very big sample sizes and then use thorough scanning of the entire genome to try to identify some risk variants for the disease of interest. And there's one consortium on each disease of interest. And some of them were very, quote-unquote, lucky, and dozens and hundreds of gene variants were discovered.
Right.
Others were not that lucky, and we went through lots of dry periods and getting nothing and struggling to get a larger sample size,
Sure.
get even more teams and try to get funding even though we had found nothing, which
Right.
is not so easy.
Right.
And eventually we got a few risk variants. So is it that the teams that I was working with who got hundreds of variants discovered, were they better scientists compared to those who found one or nothing or two? Probably not. I think the principles were the same. The concepts, the ideas, the methods, their implementation, I think, was as rigorous in one field versus the other. So clearly there is some component of luck, although I would argue that the common denominator in both cases was that both teams, and both types of teams, they used equally rigorous methods. And I think that this is really what we should reward.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not going to take something that doesn't work to translation,
right?
To try to save lives.
Right.
That's impossible. I think that we need to revisit that, because this may not be such a rare situation, that to some extent there is some component of randomness in discovery. And I think we just need more research to decide on this.
You know, the example you gave, I think if, the genetic architecture could vary quite a bit. So if you don't have alleles accounting for large chunks of variants to be found at the beginning, you'll get zero for a while until you reach some threshold.
Right.